Chaotic scenes that played out earlier today in Dáil, Éireann. In the end, the House had to be adjourned until tomorrow morning.
Conor McMorrow looks at the issue at the heart of the row and the effect it is having on our democracy.
There is no point of order when the chair is standing.
Please, Taoiseach, I'm standing.
A disgrace, an absolute disgrace. You're making an absolute holy show of yourselves.
In the 4 months since the election, this House has been in cold storage with no committees operating. That was the opposition charge, but the temperature soared today.
Taoiseach, you will try to ram through unprecedented changes to Dáil rules to allow Deputy Lowry and his group of TDs to sit in government and opposition at the same time. TDs who have pledged to support your government in good days and in bad, to use their own words.
This is a simple matter. You cannot be in government and in opposition at the same time.
No change in accountability of this government to the Dáil as compared to the last Dáil. Absolutely no change.
The raucous scenes over government proposals to allocate new speaking time to TDs from the regional independent group, including Michael Lowry, continued.
In more than 100 years of this Dáil, Taoiseach, never, ever in the weekly schedule has there been a time slot created where 100% of the time is allocated to the government.
If you compare Dáil to any other parliament in Europe, you will find that the opposition has more time than any other opposition in any other parliament across Europe.
This Lowry deal has cost us enough, Taoiseach, financially in this country. Don't let it cost us our democracy on.
Thank you, Deputy.
Costing our democracy. 8 minutes. 8 minutes on a Tuesday and our democracy is gone.
Please. Misogyny is what was mentioned earlier.
At 3:45, after the Ceann Comhairle invoked powers under Dáil rules to bring about an early vote on the new speaking rules, tempers flared further. Then Verona Murphy took this action.
I adjourn the House to tomorrow's sitting at 0900 hours.
This footage, shot by People Before Profit TD Paul Murphy, provided one of the lasting images of another chaotic day. It's now 117 days since the general election, and the 34th Dáil has only sat for 19 days so far. It has not been business as usual. Committees have not been formed. So why are they important, and what do they do? One of their functions is to scrutinise government departments and spending.
The full cost of that project, Deputy, was €1.429 million.
€1.429 million. OK.
But I want to emphasise...
Over the years, they've also held people from all walks of public life to account.
Yeah, okay, I understand the room for perception issues, yes.
They've given a voice to some of the most vulnerable citizens at most trying times.
I never want to see this happen again, and if I do die, I want it to be not in vain.
And rarely afraid to ask hard questions, they've produced some iconic moments.
Frankly, I think it's quite disgusting. On a personal level, I think it's quite disgusting.
As it stands, we still have no committees, and before any of them are set up, the message from the combined opposition is that the position of the Ceann Comhairle hangs in the balance tonight.
It's sad that the government have dragged, or appear to have dragged, the Ceann Comhairle into this debacle, and it raises very serious issues of confidence in the Ceann that we all have to consider very seriously.
Very shockingly, the Ceann Comhairle has been part of ramming through these new provisions. We're very troubled by that. We have been discussing it. There is no doubt that she has done significant damage to her standing and to the independence of the office itself.
As another day of turmoil draws to a close, relations between the combined opposition and the Ceann Comhairle could hardly be worse.
Conor McMorrow reporting, and I'm now joined by Sinn Féin's Pearse Doherty and by Fianna Fáil Party Whip Paul McAuliffe. Welcome to you both. First of all, Paul McAuliffe, what control or hold does Michael Lowry have over Micheál Martin and the government that such lengths are gone to facilitate Michael Lowry and the regional independence, so that we end up with another day of chaos in Dáil?
Well, let's be clear. He has no more hold than any other member of the Dáil that supports the government. And I think the opposition have misjudged this, thinking this is about the regional independence or anyone else. The strength of feeling on this issue in the backbenches of both Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael are incredibly strong. I mean, you talk about the scenes in the Dáil today. I stood and watched. Any fair-minded person watching that package will see Pearse Doherty and his colleagues standing, shouting, bullying, intimidating the Ceann Comhairle, heckling Dáil staff.
OK, we're going to come back to the Ceann Comhairle in a minute. I just want to say,
staff
what control, though, does he have? Why are you so stubborn in government about sticking to facilitating the regional independence of Michael Lowry? Why?
Because there are almost 60 members of the Dáil who have as much right to have certainty about asking questions as Pearse or any of his colleagues, and we should be allowed to ask them. It happens in every other country in the world. You have certainty and party slots and ability to answer questions, and that should happen in Ireland.
And just before we bring Pearse, but as Ivana Bacik said there in Conor McMurray's report, it's a simple matter. You can't be in government and in opposition at the same time.
And I agree. And the Ceann Comhairle has ruled that is not possible. It's very clear that they are not TDs in opposition. And what was the suggestion made to us by the opposition? Create speaking time within government time.
OK, Pearse Doherty.
Look, that's complete and utter nonsense. Everybody knows what this is about. This is about Michael Lowry and his gang. Look, that's what it's about, and the question is relevant. We've asked Micheál Martin over and over again, what has he got on him? Because Micheál Martin has gone to the well for Michael Lowry. He didn't do the same for his own. Remember when he sacked Barry Cowan? He didn't do the same for his own, but he is going to end degrees, and he's thrown the Dáil into chaos as a result of it. And this is a stroke that everybody understands.
But Micheál Martin would say that this is the manufactured row by people like you in opposition, that in fact not a single second of opposition time is going to be impacted by this change.
First of all, let me deal with two issues, right? Because Paul would try and say it's not about Lowry. They tried the first attempt, which was to get Lowry recognised as an opposition group and Lowry's TDs. The Ceann Comhairle, after independent legal advice, ruled that was not possible. They're government TDs. Not a peep out of Paul at that time about backbenchers.
That's not true.
When that
Look
was,
at Twitter.
Listen, Paul, I didn't interrupt you. So when that was shot down, then they came up with this ruse that is about the backbenchers. It's not. It's about Lowry. It's about that grubby little deal that was done to facilitate this government. A person, remember, who Micheál Martin himself voted to censure, who believes is a rogue politician, or at least did at one stage.
Speaking times, Pearse, sorry, what about the point from the Taoiseach and government that would say not a second of your opposition time is impacted by this?
First of all, that's not the main issue, but it's not true also. This is the issue here is trying, what Micheál Martin is trying to do and what he's pushed through is to show Lowry as an opposition politician when everybody knows he's a government politician. It is about that principle, about being in opposition and government at the same time. But let me just make this point. Taoiseach's questions is now cut in half. That's the ability for TDs, including government TDs, to ask questions of the Taoiseach. It means 22 hours of per year of questions to the Taoiseach will now be gone.
That's a fair point. It's been cut from 90 to 45.
Is that true?
From 6 to 3 questions.
Is that true?
What is wrong with government TDs?
Is
that true?
Let me ask.
Because you keep on making the point that we're not losing it. Is that not true?
And you are not losing.
Is Micheál Martin,
you're not losing speaking time.
Is Taoiseach's questions cut in half? Micheál Martin will now be 22 hours less accountable.
Let him answer the question.
You are not losing. You are not losing speaking time. We had to acknowledge the regional independent groups, and we had to give them speaking time as any other TD would have.
Taoiseach's questions, are we not?
And the Taoiseach will remain. And the Taoiseach will remain one of the most accountable TDs.
He can't answer the
Prime Ministers across the country.
You
only have to look at the Northern Ireland Assembly.
Paul, I'm chairing
Michelle O'Neill only answers First Minister questions
I'm chairing
every couple of weeks.
Paul McAuliffe. Is it correct to say that the Taoiseach's questions is being cut? Wait. From 90 to 45 minutes, from 6 to 3 questions. That's a yes or a no?
There is a reduction.
Okay.
There is a reduction.
Yes, exactly.
But there is increased speaking
for Lowry.
time. There is
for Lowry.
Let him speak.
There is increased speaking time in leaders' questions, in questions
for Lowry.
In questions on promised legislation, and in topical issues. And there will still be more time for Sinn Féin to ask questions than they had in the previous style.
So the listeners know and viewers know, those increased speaking times are for Lowry's gang. That's what it's about. This is what all of this is about.
First of all, before I ask you about the Ceann Comhairle's position, would you accept what Micheál Martin said that today she was was a victim of bullying in the Dáil?
Not at all. Actually, what the government has done in terms of ramming this through, despite making a promise on the floor of the Dáil that they would bring forward a proposal that would is acceptable to the opposition, what you've seen today was the combined opposition robustly defending our right as the opposition to hold government to account and not allowing this stroke politics to continue.
So what are you going to do about the Ceann Comhairle? Are you going to go ahead with a vote of confidence?
Mariam, to tell you the truth, what we've seen from the Ceann Comhairle today is serious. It is very serious in terms, and I was there. I believe it was in a way orchestrated. I sit right across from the Chief Whip, Mary Butler. There was thumbs up going to the Ceann Comhairle, while Michael Lowry was giving two fingers to the opposition and the Irish people in the back benches.
Miriam, can I address that point?
Yes.
And I addressed it earlier. It was very clear that there was both bullying, intimidation of the Ceann Comhairle, there was heckling of Dáil staff members, which is completely unacceptable. Staff that were working in that chamber were subjected to a toxic environment, not by anybody in government, by Pearse as the ringleader, and all of his colleagues standing.
Paul, I want to ask you a question. Yeah. Do you know whether or not the Ceann Comhairle had any contact with any members of the government before today's Dáil session?
I have no doubt that the Ceann Comhairle speaks to the whips on all sides. There's a business committee meeting,
so is that a yes?
And so on. Well, of course, all of the parties speak to the Ceann Comhairle. But the Ceann Comhairle did nothing today that wasn't on the agenda.
Was there a coordinated approach? That
Miriam,
was the allegation.
How can you say it was coordinated? What evidence do we have that it's
coordinated?
I'm just asking. I didn't say it was.
It was very clear that the Ceann Comhairle followed the agenda.
No, she did not. Let me make this clear.
You spent all day shouting me down. Will you allow me to make the point?
But you cannot come here and tell me truths, right? Did she follow the agenda? What happened to promised legislation? She cut it.
It had to be suspended because of your behaviour.
No, tell the public. She came in, she says, I'm not dealing with promised legislation because there's disruption here, but I'm going to take the vote that the government wants. Thumbs up from Mary Butler, two fingers from Lowry. That's the type of farce that we see today.
You were the bully in chief today. What you did in the chamber, you wouldn't be allowed to do in an RT studio. You wouldn't be allowed to do at a residents' meeting or a sports club meeting. You intimidated the Ceann Comhairle and the staff, and you should apologise to the Ceann Comhairle. You should apologise for the misogyny and the bullying that went on today.
That is disgraceful and absolute deflection, because what you cannot defend is a grubby deal with Michael Lowry that everybody knows you can't be in opposition and government at the same time. It's shameful what you did today.
Thank you very much for coming in tonight. Sarah.
It was launched with some fanfare in 2022, but now in